When my daughter-in-law, Mei Ling's mother, Oma, visited from Taiwan, she and I experienced a special connection, even though she didn't know English, and I certainly didn't speak Mandarin, except she taught me two phrases, "Xie xie," which is thank you, and "Ni hao," which is how are you? And that's the extent of my knowledge of Mandarin. But part of the reason for our bond, besides our shared grandsons, was a respect for Guanyin. And this really surprised Oma, that a Westerner knew about and acknowledged a symbol from her belief system. In fact, when she returned to Taiwan, she sent me a beautiful jade necklace sculpted in the image of Guanyin. When Oma made her transition, she and her family wanted me to say something at her ceremony, so they zoomed me in. And I don't know how many people really understood what I was saying, but just to be asked and wanted there really touched me. It reminded me that our connections are at a soul level and go beyond culture or gender. What drew me to Guanyin was that I felt she represented the part of our consciousness responsible for nurture, intuition, and empathy, the divine feminine, which I've talked about before, and which is present in all of us regardless of our gender. So just a little bit about Guanyin. She is one of the most universally beloved deities in the Asian Buddhist tradition, because she is said to be the embodiment of compassionate loving kindness and considered to be one of the enlightened ones. In images, she is depicted as carrying the pearls of illumination or pouring a stream of healing water, the water of life, from a small vase. She may be seen holding a sheaf of ripe rice or a bowl of rice seed as a metaphor for fertility and sustenance. She may be seen sitting on a turtle, which is my favorite totem. And then my very favorite image is Guanyin riding the waves of a tumultuous sea on top of a dragon, the ancient symbol for high spirituality, wisdom, strength, and the divine power of transformation. Mei Ling told me that it is said and believed by those in the Buddhist tradition that Guanyin hears the cries of all beings and has vowed to remain in the earthly realm and not enter the heavenly world until all living things have completed their own enlightenment and are thus liberated from suffering. She sets aside her heavenly life for the sake of others. If we can't all be in heaven, then she doesn't want to be there either. Well, I have good news for Guanyin. Heaven is already here, and enlightenment isn't anything we attain. We already have it. You are enlightenment itself, writes the philosopher and author Alan Watts. Enlightenment is the natural state of being that arises when you recognize that you are already whole, interconnected, and free. There are no degrees of enlightenment, only degrees of unenlightenment when you cling to the ego, fail to believe or recognize that there is no I separate from the universe, when you remain identified with fixed labels and the illusion of separation. He continues to write that the true nature of human beings is love. We have to surrender our investment in being either male or female, he writes, and be unself-conscious, free from our narcissistic identification with gender, free from the need to dominate, control, or manipulate. As I've mentioned before, psychologists believe that our consciousness consists of both masculine and feminine energies, similar in concept to the right and left hemispheres of our brain. It is equally inherent in both men and women. It is not attached to gender. They are complementary energies that keep us balanced. And I know I'm repeating myself, but this is important. A person can be strong and gentle, logical and intuitive, rational and emotional, assertive and submissive, can lead and follow. The responses to many crises, then, naturally, are both of masculine and feminine energies. There is a masculine energy, offense. We will fight and gain control and decimate the enemy. And there is the more feminine response, defense. Unable to stop what's happening, let's at least protect ourselves in as many ways as possible. There is no shame in compromise and surrendering, no disgrace in changing directions for the good of the whole. Alan Watts writes that the best and perfect response to life is not to go on the offensive or the defensive. It is, in fact, he says, enlightenment. And enlightenment is not a destination. It is not a distant goal to be achieved through discipline, meditation, or moral improvement. It is knowing and experiencing that the whole universe and everything that exists within it, seen and unseen, known and unknown, is one conscious, glorious, intelligent being that is self-aware, and its nature is love. Enlightenment is the way of being that emerges when you stop chasing it. The more you think about enlightenment, the farther you drift from it, because the act of seeking creates the illusion that it is something separate from your current reality. Living enlightenment is actualizing and experiencing limitless potential in every moment of life as it unfolds anew. Only the present moment is real, and living in the divine space is living the best life, and at the same time does the greatest service to society. So Guru Paramahansa says, there is no I separate from the universe. The realization of enlightenment completely destroys the ego. And that is truly the important thing. Winning our liberation from the ego. To defy the cynical ego, to transcend it, proves that it is possible to live the law of love in a deeply divided world. How do we live our enlightenment? Well, I read a term this week that I had never heard before. It was perpetual awakening. We live our enlightenment by perpetually awakening. And I'll add, and choosing love. It is living in perpetual awakening and always choosing love. There's a meditation practice I discovered while reading an article written by Tara Brach, and it is called RAIN. You might have heard of it, R-A-I-N. Each letter of RAIN is a way to work with your body, mind, and heart. That's why I had us meditate on the song, Open the Floodgates of Heaven and Let the Light of Love Rain Down on Me. The R of RAIN is recognize. Acknowledge what is happening right here, right now, and then name the emotion that this acknowledgement has stirred up in you. Fear, worry, agitation, all of the above. And then the second step is to allow. Let it be for right now. Don't fix or judge or ignore it. Let the thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations we have recognized just simply be there. It allows us to give ourselves a pause. Viktor Frankl said, between the stimulus and the response, there is a space, and in that space is your power and your freedom. Allowing opens a space that enables us to see more deeply into our own being. which in turn can awaken our caring and help us make wise choices in life. I is investigate with kindness. Call on your natural curiosity, the desire to know the truth. Imagine while walking in the woods that you see a small dog sitting by a tree, and you bend down to pet it, and it suddenly lunges at you, growling with its mouth open and biting teeth. Initially, you might be frightened, and then maybe angry. But then you notice one of his legs is caught in a trap buried under some leaves, and immediately your mood shifts from anger to concern. You see that the dog's aggression sprang from pain and its vulnerability. And this can apply to all of us. When we behave in hurtful, reactive ways, it is because we are caught in some form of painful trap. And the more we investigate the source of our suffering, the more we cultivate a compassionate heart toward ourselves that can extend to others. And N, natural awareness, which comes from not identifying with the experience. Natural loving awareness occurs when identification with the small self, the ego, is loosened. The practice of non-identification means that our sense of who we are is not fused with any limiting emotions or sensations or stories. We begin to intuit and live from the openness and love that expresses our natural awareness. While working in hospice, I heard a story of a daughter sitting with her mother while her mother was in a coma and dying. At one point, the mother suddenly opened her eyes, looked at her daughter, clear and lucid, and said, "You know, all of my life, I thought something was wrong with me." She closed her eyes, sank back into a coma, and died. We each have been conditioned to live for long stretches of time imprisoned by a sense of deficiency, in a type of coma or trance, cut off from realizing our intrinsic worth, our intelligence, our love. Rain. Recognize, allow, investigate with kindness and curiosity, and natural loving awareness is a practice for life. It meets our doubts and fears with a healing Guanyin feminine goddess presence. Each time you are willing to slow down and recognize, oh, this is the trance of unworthiness, this is a fear coma, this is hurt, this is judgment, whatever, you are then poised to decondition the old habits and limiting self-beliefs that imprison your heart. And the greatest blessing we can give ourselves is to recognize the pain of this trance and regularly offer a cleansing rain of self-compassion to reawaken our hearts. My deep hope in these troubled times is that we call forth the love that awakens all hearts. And I invite you to ask yourself, in facing this collective suffering and fear, what is your heart's deepest aspiration? What do you hope might be called forth in you? Who do you want to be in the midst of all this? How do you ride the tumultuous waves like Guanyin and stay on top? How do we face the fears that naturally circle around wars and rumors of wars in a way that can keep our heart open? Whether our fear is for ourselves or for others close to us, or even for the world in a larger sense, our nervous systems are clearly getting that no one is exempt. We are all part of this living web in crisis. And a huge number of us will feel real loss, hardship, and heartbreak. Thich Nhat Hanh writes, when the crowded Vietnamese refugee boats met with storms or pirates, if everyone panicked, all would be lost. But if even one person on the boat remained calm and centered, it was enough. It showed the way for everyone to survive. I remember that soccer team trapped in the cave in Thailand, and they demonstrated that very thing. Meditation and calmness from their leader kept everyone centered, and they all survived. How can we be that one person? The good news is that when we learn to shift toward inner calm, we light the way for others. As we cultivate this loving presence in our own heart, it moves us to extend the same compassion to others and our world. In times of crisis, including global crises, RAIN gives us a pathway that is accessible and easy to remember and we can share with others. I heard a story about a little boy who was scared during a thunderstorm, and he kept running into his parents' room, and they'd put him back in bed in his own room and say, "You're safe, you're fine, God is with you." After a number of rounds of this, the little boy said to his father, "I know God is with me, but I want someone with skin on." God isn't just with us. We are godlings, God with skin on. And we do need to experience that connection. We need one another. It's all about relationship. In contrast to natural disasters like earthquakes and so on, violence, wars can be a setup for disconnection. And we start to fear that others are the real danger. And there's a saying attributed to Buddha, "Our fear is great, but greater yet is our consciousness, our belongingness, our oneness." If we can remember and take refuge in all of that, we will have no room for fear. As we know, there's a huge amount of research about how connection reduces fear. This is truly the time to realize that no one is an alien stranger. If ever there's a time to take refuge in our sense of community, the beloved community with each other, however we can cultivate it, it is now. In many different ways, we all have been in training for these times. We can be first responders in a spiritual, Christ-conscious, enlightened way. This week, may we hold this world in our hearts and respond with all the power of a goddess, with love and compassion. May it be so, and so it is. Amen.